Hey guys, before we get started today, I just wanted to thank the Only Sheet 2nd Pro Edition for sponsoring the channel again. They've just released version 7 of their program, and not only does this version include brand new content from the Pathfinder Society guidebook, but it now also includes a whole new official Pathfinder Society character support sheet. I'll be doing a short tutorial video for them in the near future going over all of the new content and how it works with the new Pathfinder Society character support sheet. So check out the links in the description to find out more about the Only Sheet 2nd Pro Edition Character Manager. Thank you so much TOS for sponsoring the channel, now on with the video. Howdy, my name is Nonat, and welcome to my deep dive into the Halfling Ancestry for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We're almost done the core rulebook already, y'all. Believe it or not, there's only halflings and then humans, and then we're done with the CRB. Don't worry, we got a whole lot more to check out with Lost Omens and APG. It's just crazy to me how fast we kind of blew through this book. If this is your first time watching one of these Ancestry deep dives, just as a reminder, I do not go into the lore or real flavor of these Ancestries. This is strictly going over mechanical gameplay elements, their starting stats and their feats and their heritages specifically. This usually comes down to a nice, concise 30-minute video going over everything available to the Ancestry from a gameplay perspective, and sometimes my own opinion on certain things and certain flavor does slip through. So starting off with halfling stats, they're surprisingly fragile. Whereas gnomes were a little hardier and had a bonus to constitution, I always thought of halflings as sort of small but sturdy, but not in Pathfinder. Tied for the lowest starting hit points at only 6, and a size small, these guys are small and pretty easy to take down in comparison. They do have a 25-foot move speed, so they are just as fast as most other ancestries, and they get a dexterity and wisdom ability boost, a very interesting combination. You also, of course, get a free boost and a flaw to strength, because, you know, they're little, their muscles are little, their strength is little. Halflings speak Common and the Halfling languages, as well as extra languages equal to their intelligence mod, like everyone else. They have the Halfling and Humanoid trait, and Halflings are interesting because they start with a completely unique little vision trait. Keen eyes. They don't have dark vision or low light vision, they get this special ability, which gives them a +2 circumstance bonus to the seek action when looking for hidden or undetected creatures. Additionally, the flat check DC to hit concealed and hidden creatures is reduced to 3 for concealed and 9 for hidden. Some really solid bonuses here just for picking the Ancestry. Very nice. The only downside is, again, they don't even have low light vision, but it's not too bad. Now with this whole Keen Eyes ability, we'll start to see 2 recurring trends with halflings. One is all things hidden. They're really good at spotting hidden things, and they're really good at hiding, specifically in the shadows. The other one that hasn't come up yet, but will soon, is Halfling Luck, which has been a thing for a long time. Even back in, like, AD&D, Halflings got bonuses to saving throws because they're lucky. But we're not talking about AD&D, we're talking about Pathfinder. So let's get into the Halfling heritages. Starting off with the Gutsy Halfling, which is really quite simple. You are really strong-headed against emotion effects, and if you ever get a success on a saving throw against an emotion effect, you automatically critically succeed instead. It's not a big deal, but it's a cool flavor thing where the halfling is really good at keeping a level head, keeping it nice and simple. What's important to keep in mind is that fear effects are emotion effects. So emotion goes a little bit broader than you might think. So really, against fear saving throws and a whole other wide range of them, this does apply and can do really, really good things for you. The Hillock Halfling is hilarious and adorable. You love to eat snacks. Whenever you sleep overnight, you eat a snack and gain additional hit points equal to your level. Now this is useless if you don't use the Pathfinder 2e overnight rules, which is constitution modifier times level is hit point gain. But, you know, if you do use those rules, this is great. Additionally, should someone use medicine to treat your wounds, you also eat a snack and regain the same number of hit points equal to your level. It's great. I love it. It's just adorable. The Nomadic Halfling is honestly insane. You gain 2 additional starting languages, and should you ever take the multilingual feat, you gain an extra language, and that feat already grants you 2 languages. So a level 3 halfling, regardless of their class, with the nomadic heritage and the multilingual skill feat, will start with 7 plus their intelligence modifier in languages. It's absolutely insane, and with the linguist archetype in particular, you can speak almost every language in Galarian. It's nuts. The Twilight Halfling grants low light vision, which is definitely a tough pill to swallow, in that most ancestries do start with low light vision, and you would be spending your entire heritage on low light vision, which is tough to think about that as a worthy investment. And the Wildwood Halfling is actually pretty solid. You ignore difficult terrain from trees, foliage, and undergrowth. So basically, as long as the difficult terrain is natural and from a forest, you can move full speed, which is huge. The Lost Omens Character Guide actually only adds 1 new heritage to Halflings, and that is the Observant Halfling, which is kind of boring. You get a +1 circumstance bonus to your perception DC, but not to your checks. Now, I'll be honest, as a GM, I almost never use my players' perception DC just because it's more fun to say, hey, roll me a perception check. You know, players get to roll more dice. I love asking them to roll dice. It's just a personal preference thing, but I personally do not use player perception DC almost ever. I'll use random NPC perception DC all the time. That's what I'll usually use if they're stealthing. But for the most part, I don't use it for players. And the APG actually added a brand new halfling heritage. I believe it's the only core ancestry to get a new heritage from the APG. It is the Jinxed Halfling. Now this is uncommon, so you will need your GM's permission in order to take this. It has 2 features. The first being you can never take the ancestry feat Halfling Luck, because a Jinxed Halfling is cursed with permanent bad luck. But you do get the Jinx action. This action is because the Jinxed Halfling can inflict that bad luck onto other peoples. People. Once per day, for 2 actions, you can target a creature and force them to make a will save. This save is either against your class DC or your spell DC, whichever is higher, and should they critically succeed, nothing happens. Should they normal succeed, nothing happens. And in both cases, they are immune to your Jinx for 24 hours, which is fine because it can only be used once a day anyway. Should they fail, they become Clumsy 1 for 1 minute. And remember, that's huge because that reduces their armor class. Should they critically fail, they become Clumsy 2 for 1 minute. And at level 1, being able to inflict a -2 to armor class is huge. This is really cool and might be my favorite halfling heritage. It's unfortunate that it's uncommon, but I also understand why. And now for that thing I say every single video, the meat and potatoes, the ancestry feats. But first, subscriber gag, go!
Hey, look at me! I'm a halfling! Subscribe to the channel, pledge to my Patreon, link in the description. I'll be honest, I could have done better.
I'm running out of ideas. Distracting Shadows. Any creature at least 1 size larger than you can now be treated as cover for the purposes of hiding and sneaking. They don't grant you armor class from cover or anything like that, but you can run behind your human fighter and take the hide action. It's pretty powerful, honestly. I've seen it in action. It's pretty good. As usual, there's also an ancestry lore for halfling lore, which gives you acrobatics and stealth, as well as the halfling lore skill. Now, halfling luck is super unique to halflings. There's a reason that the Jinxed Halfling exists, because it's the opposite of this. Once per day, for a free action, should you fail a skill check or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and you are forced to use the new check. This is insane. Now, unfortunately, you can't do it on an attack roll, but hey, a saving throw and a skill check are made all the time. So once per day, being able to just say, no, I get a do-over, is incredible. Just a really good feat. You could never go wrong picking this one. Halfling weapon familiarity, same as all the other ancestry weapon familiarities, but this one grants you the short sword, the sling, and the Halfling Sling Staff, also known as the coolest weapon in the game, as it is a quarterstaff with a sling on the end that you whip around in a circle to shoot with it. It is so cool. Sure Feet is honestly another really solid ancestry feat. Whenever you get a success while trying to balance with acrobatics or climb with athletics, you get a critical success instead. Additionally, while balancing or climbing in combat, you're not considered flat-footed. This is really, really good. Obviously, you're not necessarily going to climb all the time, but this is just a really good thing to have in your back pocket. It makes climbing such an easy thing to do. The only downside is your ancestral flaw to strength, which does make climbing a little more difficult, but only at -1, and this more than makes up for it. Titan Slinger, which is one of my favorite feats for halflings, is really good and makes the Halfling Sling Staff even stronger. If you are using a sling weapon group weapon against a large or bigger creature, you increase the damage die of your sling by 1 step, the David and Goliath thing. And since the Halfling Sling Staff is considered a sling weapon, that 1d10 becomes a 1d12 against large and bigger creatures. Now, you're not always going to be fighting large creatures, but it's really helpful when you do. Unfettered Halfling is incredible, and you're going to start sensing a theme here, because Unfettered Halfling, whenever you roll a success on an escape or a saving throw against the grabbed or restrained condition, you critically succeed instead. Additionally, if someone tries to grapple you and they fail, they critically fail instead. And if a monster with the grab ability would get their free grab on you, they don't get to grab you automatically. They have to make an athletics check. The theme I'm sensing here is Halflings alter fate. Granted, this is a very meta version of fate, but it's all these dice rolls. The Halfling just looks at it and goes, no, -10. I rolled my dice, no, +10 to escape. Like, being able to make a success a critical success, make an enemy failure a critical failure, or even forcing a die roll on an automatic success is so nasty. This is an amazing feat, and halflings have some really cool dice control feats. I don't know what else I'd call them. Watchful Halfling is sort of a feat that does a lot of stuff, and it's all really good. First off, you get a +2 circumstance bonus to sense motive to see if someone is enchanted or possessed. Even if you don't actively seek this, the GM automatically rolls a secret check for you at a total of -4 because you don't get your +2 and it inflicts a -2 because you didn't choose to do it, but it still happens automatically for you to check if they are possessed or enchanted. Additionally, you can aid someone in their saving throw against an enchantment or possession effect. Usually this is not something you could use the aid action for, but because you're a watchful halfling, you can. In the Lost Omens Character Guide, we're seeing even more dice manipulation with Adroit Manipulation. Now, this is locked behind one of the ethnicities of Halfling, but if your GM's cool with it, you can take it. Basically, you become trained in thievery, and any success to pick a lock is a critical success instead. There are so many Halfling feats which make successes critical successes, and we're still at level 1. Innocuous just makes your make a diversion action better. You become trained in deception, and should you fail your deception check to cause a diversion, the people don't think you were trying to trick them. Normally, if you fail that check, people can tell you were trying to distract them, but as long as you don't critically fail, they don't tell you're trying to distract them even. Just completely calm, they'll just leave you alone. It's great. Intuitive cooperation is so cool to me, and it makes me sad that it's locked behind an ethnicity. I would allow any halfling to take this in my game. You get a +2 bonus to aid allies, and allies get a +2 to bonus to aid you. This is so cool, and it really encourages the aid action, which is not used enough. It's really, really cool, and it's sometimes hard to aid because it's a DC 20 flat. It's rough to do, but with this kind of bonus, it makes it really possible, even at low levels, and I love it. Plus, it makes everyone want to help you, and that's great. Unassuming dedication. Again, I'm sad it's locked behind an ethnicity because it's such a cool, not really overpowered bonus. Anytime you're doing something during downtime, you get a +1 bonus. That's a really cool feature that makes them really good at crafting or really good at earning income. It just makes you a little bit better at all your downtime activities. It makes you more of a homebody, which is hard to do in an RPG like this. But having a feat like this, which makes you better when you're not off adventuring, is really, really cool, and I wish there were more feats like it. Folksy Patter is really cool and is sort of the closest thing we have to Thieves' Cant in Pathfinder 2e, even though Thieves' Cant is usually written. This is a halfling-specific ability that lets you twist words to get a message across without actually saying the message. Using jokes or idioms, you can get a simple 3-word message across. However, your allies do need to pass a perception check. Now, the DC is 20 for normal allies, 15 for an ally that is also a halfling, or only 10 if they are a halfling with this same feat. Listeners from around the room have to beat your deception DC to eavesdrop and hear what you're trying to get across and figure it out. But like the example here, you can say, "Danger, assassin, flee," by telling some jokes, making specific words, and your allies can just barely pick up that you're trying to tell them something, and it's a really cool roleplay opportunity. And Prairie Rider's pretty simple. You become trained in nature. You also get a +1 bonus to command an animal if that animal happens to be a pony or a riding dog, any typical halfling traditional mount. And that's it for level 1 feats, which definitely always have the most options, but let's see what they have to offer at some higher levels. Cultural Adaptability. You just get the Adopted Ancestry general feat and get to take a free feat from that new ancestry at level 1. That's so cool! Now, because it specifically uses the Adopted Ancestry as its base, you can't take any feats that require a specific body part to use. You know, you can't take the Tengu Beak ancestry feat because you're a halfling and you don't have a beak. So there are some limitations there, but this is just really good. This is effectively trading your level 5 feat for any level 1 feat from any other ancestry in the game, which is nuts. There's also Halfling Weapon Trickster, which just gives you crit specialization with halfling weapons. Meh. Easily Dismissed is okay as a 5th level feat. I think this should have been a 1st level feat. Effectively, even if you're out in the open and observed by everyone in a crowd, you can roll stealth to just not be noticed in the crowd. Should you succeed, people can still see you, but they will think nothing of you. You will full-on Ezio blend in with the crowd, and nobody will care about you. Halfling Ingenuity is actually kinda crazy with what you can get away with. First off, you can perform any trained action for a skill you're untrained in, and then, should you fail that check because you're not trained in it, you can use Halfling Luck to re-roll that check. Should you use Halfling Luck in this way, you not only get to add your level to the roll, which is at least 5, you also get a +4 circumstance bonus. So if you've never done a lick of thievery in your life, and you're trying to pick a lock, and you roll a 5 on that d20, you can say, that's fun, I'm just gonna use Halfling Ingenuity, use Halfling Luck, re-roll that 5. Let's say you get a 15. Well, you also get to add your level and a +4 bonus, so that 5 became a 15, which became a 24. Absolutely nuts, so good, always good, amazing skill. Feat. Shared Luck. You can use your Halfling Luck on an ally within 30 feet, once per day. It still counts as your 1 use per day of Halfling Luck, but you can share it with an ally. Just like normal, they have to use the new result, they can't choose between them. In the APG, we have Step Lively. Should a large or larger enemy end their movement action right next to you, you can step to any other adjacent space so long as you're still adjacent to that creature. This means you can step around them, but not away from them. Level 9 feats, starting with Guiding Luck. First off, you can use Halfling Luck twice per day. However, the second one has to be with a different trigger. No longer can you use it on a failed skill check or saving throw, but the second one has to be for a perception check or attack roll. And with the shared luck feat from before, you can use this second trigger for allies as well if you have that shared luck feat. So you get more Halfling Luck, but you can't use it on the same thing twice effectively. Irrepressible. You get the Gutsy Halfling feature of auto-crit succeeding successes against emotional effects. Should you already be a Gutsy Halfling, you only normal fail on a critical failure. These are incredible, by the way, if you're playing a class that don't get legendary in will saves or something like that, because if you're a class that gets really good fortitude and reflex saves, you can really augment your will saving throws, because so many will saves are emotional effects that you can really just up your average save without actually improving the bonus itself just with these ancestry feats. So good. Level 9 in the Lost Omens guide, we see Cunning Climber, which just gives you a climb speed of 10 feet. Always good because you don't need to roll climb checks anymore, and additionally, you can take the Legendary Climber skill feat even if you don't have the Quick Climb skill feat. Pretty solid. Fade Away. You need to already have the Easily Dismissed skill feat from earlier, but if you have that, you gain Invisibility and Misdirection as second level innate occult spells. You can only cast these on yourself, and you can only cast each of them once per day. Helpful Halfling once again upgrades that aid skill in some okay ways. It only upgrades it in critical successes and critical failures. Now it increases the total bonus from your critical successes by 1. So if you're an expert, you give them +3, master +4. But interestingly, it does not upgrade legendary. It just upgrades Master to +4, and then Legendary just stays at +4. Kind of unfortunate. But additionally, you can no longer critically fail to aid someone. Normally, if you critically fail, you actually give them a -1 to their check, but this completely nullifies that, and it can never hurt to aid an ally if you're a helpful halfling. Amazing. So long as you took the Step Lively feat at level 5, you can take the Dance Underfoot feat at level 9 in the APG. This gives you a really unique ability that is typically only usable by very specific creatures such as rats and rat folk. You can end a tumble through acrobatics check inside the space of a large or larger enemy. On top of this, you can also use your Step Lively reaction to step into their space. There's some stipulations here in that they have to have limbs. You can't step into an ooze, but you can step under a giant. Now, unfortunately, this does not protect you from their melee strikes or anything like that. They can still reach underneath themselves and hit you, but it does let you share a space, which means even more allies can crowd around them. It's got its uses, it's harder to target you from other creatures, but it doesn't save you from the one you're hiding underneath. Unhampered Passage is just really simple. You get the Freedom of Movement Primal spell as an innate spell once per day. This allows you to ignore anything that gives you a circumstance penalty to your speed and automatically succeed any escape checks, unless it's specifically a magical restraint. 13th level, we're coming down to the end here. Ceaseless Shadows. This upgrades your distracting shadows. Now, along with being able to hide and sneak behind medium and larger creatures, you now get official cover from being behind them. If you would gain lesser cover from being behind a creature, you can use it to take cover. And additionally, if you would have full cover from being behind a large creature, you gain greater cover. This is fantastic. And then Halfling Weapon Expertise, you get Expert Proficiency, blah, 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 blah. Cobble Dancer, pretty good, would be really useful on a rogue. You can take the step action in difficult terrain, which you normally cannot do, and any foe in difficult terrain are considered flat-footed to you, period. That's amazing. Incredible Luck. You can use Halfling Luck 4 times per day, however you can still only use it on a perception check or attack roll once per day if you have the Guiding Luck feat. Wait, what did I read? What? That's not what it says at all. What? Where did I go? Incredible Luck. You can now use your Halfling Luck once per hour instead of once per day. You can still only use Halfling Luck on an attack roll or perception check once per day, but you can use it on a skill check or saving throw once per hour. If you have Shared Luck, you can share it with an ally once per hour. This is an amazing upgrade and sort of a good capstone for the luck-based Halfling. Toppling Dance is okay, although for 13th level, it's not great. If you are sharing a space with someone thanks to the Dance Underfoot feat, all of your weapons and unarmed attacks gain the Trip trait, meaning you can use them to trip an enemy. The caveat is that these weapons can only be used to trip the creature whose space you are underneath, but you can still stay in their space even when they're prone. And at level 17, we have the Capstone feat, and also just the single strongest Halfling feat by a wide margin, Shadow Self. Should you successfully use stealth to hide and become hidden from all of your foes, or you've snuck up and become undetected by them, you can turn invisible for 1 full minute. Additionally, you can pick any location within 10 feet, and all creatures who seek for you will be convinced you are hidden in that spot. So if you are right behind an enemy and you are undetected, you can use Shadow Self, point to a barrel, and the enemies, if they suddenly become alerted to your presence and use the seek action, they will be convinced you are in that barrel. Now, should they take the top off the barrel, move the barrel, and have completely perfect evidence that you're clearly not there, this effect will wear off, but it still gives you ample time to reposition yourself and do what you need to do while invisible. Should you take any kind of hostile action, or really any action at all, your invisibility will wear off. And really the best part of this is you can do it once per hour. This is absolutely disgusting, and I love it. This is a get out of jail free card you can use once per hour. Absolutely crazy. I love it, and I love halflings. So that's really all she wrote. Halflings are pretty simple and pretty cool. They're good at manipulating dice, and they're good at hiding. That is their thing. That is what they do. There's some interesting synergy they tried to do with stepping underneath large creatures and tripping them, but it's really not all that helpful. It's just kind of flavorful. But again, halflings are fun. I like them. They're a ton of really, really cool stuff. I still prefer gnomes, but halflings are definitely really cool as well. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think about halflings. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Why? Are you playing a halfling right now? Please tell me about your character down in the comments. I want to hear about it. And while you're down there, please remember to subscribe and like the video. It helps the channel out so much. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. Thank you all so much for everything you do. We've gotten a few new patrons in the last few days. You guys are amazing. Your support never goes unnoticed, and it really, really helps me out a lot, especially in times where I'm at right now. So sincerely, thank you. There are links in the description to my Discord as well as my Twitter if you want to follow me on there or join the Discord. that was a jumble, and I'm leaving that in unedited. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.